The year is 1956. We are in the small town of Corbin, Kentucky. A man is watching his business being sold. For over 20 years, he ran the Sanders Court and Cafe. It was a famous motel and restaurant. It was his dream. Now, everything is gone.
The man's name is Harlan Sanders. He is 65 years old and was a successful business owner. But a new highway, Interstate 75, was a big problem. The new highway was planned to go around Corbin, not through it. The travelers who were his customers disappeared. His business suddenly failed.
Sanders sold his property to pay his bills. He walked away with very little money after decades of hard work. At an age when most men retire, Harlan Sanders had lost everything. Then he received his first Social Security check in the mail. It was only $105. This small amount of money was not enough to live on.
It seemed like the end for Harlan Sanders. But this moment of failure was not an ending. It was the surprising start of an amazing new chapter in his life. This story is not about a young person with a new idea. It's about an older man who refused to give up. He took that $105 check, a secret recipe, and his strong will. With these, he built a global empire called Kentucky Fried Chicken.
To understand Colonel Sanders, we must look at the 60 years of difficulty he faced. His success was the result of a lifetime of failures. Harlan David Sanders was born in 1890 in a small house in Henryville, Indiana. His early life had tragedy and responsibility. When Harlan was 5 years old, his father died. His mother had to work at a factory to support the family. This meant young Harlan had to cook for his younger brother and sister.
By age 7, Harlan was a good cook. He learned to make bread, vegetables, and meat dishes. This was his first real education, learned in the kitchen. His time in school was very short. His mother got married again, and Harlan did not like his new stepfather. At age 12, he left school in the 7th grade. He later joked that algebra was the reason he quit. He left home and started working many different jobs for almost 40 years.
The next 30 years of Harlan Sanders' life were full of different jobs. He was a farmhand and a streetcar conductor. At 16, he lied about his age and joined the U.S. Army. He served in Cuba and was honorably discharged. After the Army, he worked on the railroads. He started as a helper and then became a steam engine fireman. This was a hot, dirty, and difficult job. He was fired after getting into a fight with another worker.
Sanders did not give up. While working on the railroad, he studied law at night through a mail course. He earned a law degree and moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. He practiced law for 3 years and was doing well. But his quick temper caused problems again. His law career ended after he got into a fight in the courtroom with his own client. One writer said his failures were caused by his stubbornness and impatience.
The pattern of failure continued. He was fired from a job selling insurance. He started a ferry boat company that was successful, but he sold it. He used the money to start a company making lamps. That company failed because a competitor made a better electric lamp. But each failure taught him something important. On the railroad, he learned about steam pressure, which helped him later invent the pressure fryer. As a salesman, he learned how to sell things to people. His short law career taught him about contracts, which are important for a franchise business.
A story from 1931 shows how tough Harlan Sanders was. At that time, he was running a Shell oil gas station in Corbin, Kentucky. He painted signs on barns to advertise his station. This made a competitor, Matt Stewart, very angry. Stewart started painting over Sanders' signs. One day, Sanders heard that Stewart was painting over a sign again. Sanders and two Shell company managers, all carrying guns, drove to the scene.
What happened next was fast and violent. Stewart jumped down from the ladder and started shooting his pistol. He shot and killed one of the Shell managers, Robert Gibson. Sanders immediately shot back, hitting Stewart in the shoulder. The gunfight ended with one man dead and another wounded. Later, Matt Stewart was sent to prison for murder. The police decided Sanders acted in self-defense, so he was not charged with a crime. This event showed that Sanders was hot-headed and would do anything to protect his business.
In 1930, Shell Oil Company offered Sanders a gas station in Corbin for free. He only had to give them a percentage of gas sales. Sanders saw that travelers stopping for gas were often hungry. He turned a storeroom into a small dining area with one table for 6 people. He served simple, homemade food like ham, steaks, and pan-fried chicken. He called it Sunday dinner, 7 days a week.
His reputation as a great cook grew very quickly. By 1937, his food was so popular that he built a bigger restaurant across the street. The new Sanders Cafe could seat 142 people. His fame reached the governor of Kentucky, Ruby Laffoon. In 1935, the governor gave him the honorary title of Kentucky Colonel. Harlan Sanders was now becoming the colonel. In 1939, a fire destroyed his restaurant. But he rebuilt it and reopened a year later with a restaurant and a motel.
The colonel was never satisfied. He knew his fried chicken was good, but he wanted it to be perfect. This led to 2 very important innovations. The first was his secret recipe of herbs and spices. He spent years perfecting the mix. In 1940, he finalized his famous recipe of 11 herbs and spices. He kept the ingredients a secret, but said they were common spices that everyone has. This special flavor made his chicken different from all others.
The second innovation was about technology. Sanders was unhappy with how long it took to cook chicken. Pan frying was too slow, taking about 30 minutes. Deep frying was faster, but the chicken was often dry and not cooked well. Then, in 1939, he saw a new invention, a commercial pressure cooker. He had a brilliant idea. He bought a pressure cooker and changed it into a pressure fryer. This cooked the chicken in only 8 or 9 minutes. It kept the chicken moist and full of flavor.
The recipe and the pressure fryer together were revolutionary. The secret recipe became a very important part of the KFC brand. To this day, the recipe is a trade secret, not a patent. This means it does not have to be shared with the public. The original handwritten recipe is kept in a huge safe at KFC headquarters. To protect the secret even more, 2 different companies mix the spices. One company blends the first half of the ingredients. Then it is sent to the second company to add the rest. Neither company knows the full recipe.
By the early 1950s, the Sanders Court and Cafe was very successful. It was even listed in a popular travel guide. Sanders had achieved a comfortable life. But his success depended on the main road, U.S. Route 25, which passed his business. In the mid-1950s, the government announced the new interstate highway system. The new Interstate 75 would be built, and it would completely bypass Corbin. Sanders knew this would destroy his business. In 1956, he had to sell his business at an auction.
After his business failed, Sanders did not retire. At an age when most people slow down, he started the biggest challenge of his life. He decided to use his two best assets, his secret recipe and his strong personality. He would build a new kind of empire based on trust and partnerships. Looking at his $105 Social Security check, he had a wild idea. He would try to sell his fried chicken recipe to other restaurants. This is how he would start franchising his concept.
At 65 years old, Sanders loaded his car with a pressure cooker and his spice blend. He hit the road, becoming a traveling salesman for his own chicken. He often slept in his car to save money. His sales pitch was simple. He would cook his chicken for a restaurant owner and their staff. If they liked it, he offered them a deal. They could sell his chicken and pay him just 4 or 5 cents for each one sold. It was based on an honor system. He trusted them to be honest. The story says he was told no more than 1,000 times before he got his first deal.
The first person to say yes was Pete Harmon. Harmon was a young restaurant owner from Salt Lake City, Utah. Sanders met him at a restaurant convention in 1951. A year later, Sanders visited Harmon's restaurant. He cooked his special chicken for Harmon. Harmon loved it immediately. With just a handshake, Harmon's Cafe became the very first Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise.
The name Kentucky Fried Chicken was not Sanders' idea. It was invented by a sign painter hired by Pete Harmon. The name was meant to sound special and different from regular Southern fried chicken. Harmon also created the famous cardboard bucket meal. He got the idea to sell 14 pieces of chicken, rolls, and gravy as a complete meal for families. Harmon also came up with the famous slogan, "It's finger-lickin' good." These ideas were not from Sanders, but they became a huge part of the KFC brand.
The first franchise was a huge success. Sales at Harmon's restaurant tripled in the first year. This proved that Sanders' franchise idea could work. Other restaurant owners saw this success and signed up too. Another important early partner was Dave Thomas, who later started the Wendy's restaurant chain. Thomas invented the rotating red bucket sign. By 1964, only 8 years after starting his journey, there were over 600 KFC franchises. The 65-year-old failure had become a 73-year-old millionaire. But the company was now too big for one person to manage.
The fast growth of KFC got the attention of investors. A young lawyer named John Y. Brown Jr. and his partner Jack Massey wanted to buy the company. At first, Sanders was angry and did not trust them. He told them he would not let any slick salesman buy his baby. But they kept trying. They told him the company was too big for him to handle alone. They promised they would not change his secret recipe. Finally, in 1964, the 73-year-old Sanders agreed. He sold his U.S. company for $2 million. The deal also gave him a lifetime salary and a position as the brand's public face.
The new owners had a different philosophy. Their main goal was to make more profit. They started cutting costs and changing recipes to make them simpler. Sanders saw this as a betrayal of his work. He was the company's goodwill ambassador, but he was also its biggest critic. He would make surprise visits to KFC restaurants. If the food was not good, he would get very angry.
He hated the new gravy most of all. The company had changed his original recipe to a cheaper one made with powder and water. Sanders was furious. He said the gravy was horrible. He famously called it sludge and pure wallpaper paste. He said he knew what wallpaper paste was because he saw his mother make it. He also hated the new extra crispy chicken, calling it a damn fried dough ball stuck on some chicken. The friendly public colonel was actually a man with a very short temper.
The conflict eventually led to lawsuits. In 1968, Sanders and his wife, Claudia, opened their own restaurant. They wanted to serve the original, authentic recipes. They called it the Colonel's Lady Dinner House. When the company, Hubline, found out Sanders wanted to franchise this new restaurant, they sued him. They said they owned the rights to his name and image. Sanders sued them back for $122 million. He said the company was using his image to sell food he did not approve of. The company even sued Sanders for libel because of his wallpaper paste comments, but that lawsuit failed.
The lawsuits were finally settled in 1975. Sanders received $1 million. He was allowed to keep his restaurant, but he had to change the name. It became the Claudia Sanders Dinner House, and it is still open today. In return, Sanders had to agree to stop criticizing KFC's food in public. He won a small victory, but he lost the war for control of his own brand.
While Colonel Sanders was fighting his old company, that company was growing around the world. Under different owners like Hubline, PepsiCo, and finally Yum Brands, KFC became a global success. This happened because the company learned to adapt to different cultures. Instead of selling the exact same American menu everywhere, they changed it to fit local tastes. KFC became a flexible idea that could work in almost any country. Today, almost all KFC restaurants are franchises owned by local business people.
KFC's success in China is a perfect example of its global strategy. KFC opened its first restaurant in Beijing in 1987. In China, KFC was not seen as simple fast food. It was a symbol of modern, Western culture. The key to their success was changing the menu for local tastes. They offered items like the old Beijing chicken roll and traditional rice porridge called congee. They also expanded into smaller cities before their competitors. By 2022, KFC had over 9,000 stores in China, much more than McDonald's.
In Japan, KFC did something even more amazing. It invented a tradition. In the early 1970s, Christmas was not a big holiday in Japan. The manager of the first KFC in Japan had an idea. He marketed a party barrel of KFC chicken as the perfect Christmas meal. In 1974, KFC launched its Kentucky for Christmas campaign. The marketing showed happy Japanese families sharing a festive KFC meal. The campaign was a huge success. Eating KFC on Christmas Eve became a national tradition in Japan. People now have to order their Christmas chicken weeks in advance.
Today, KFC operates in a very competitive market. In 2019, a competitor, Popeyes, launched a new chicken sandwich that became incredibly popular. This started the chicken sandwich wars. All major fast food chains, including KFC, had to create a new chicken sandwich to compete. KFC introduced its classic chicken sandwich. It was a good sandwich, but it had trouble beating the popular sandwiches from Popeyes and Chick-fil-A. The war showed that brands must always innovate to stay relevant.
While fighting the sandwich wars, KFC's marketing team had a great idea. They brought Colonel Sanders back to life in their commercials. But they did it with a funny twist. They used a series of different famous actors and comedians to play the Colonel. This strategy made the brand feel modern and fun. They also did clever things on social media. The official KFC Twitter account famously followed only 11 people: the 5 Spice Girls and 6 men named Herb. This 11 Herbs and Spices joke went viral and got them a lot of free publicity.
KFC has also faced serious controversy. The animal rights group PETA has a campaign called Kentucky Fried Cruelty. PETA says that the chickens in KFC's supply chain are treated very badly. They claim the chickens are bred to grow so big and fast that their legs break. In Canada, KFC agreed to improve its animal welfare standards. They are using a better method of slaughter and giving the birds better living conditions. But critics say these changes have not happened in other countries, like the United States. So, the campaign against KFC continues in many parts of the world.
Today, KFC is a massive global company. It is a key part of the Yum! Brand's empire. There are thousands of KFC restaurants in almost 150 countries. The company's performance shows its great strength in international markets. Its largest market is China. The strongest growth is in areas like Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa. In its home market, the U.S., it faces a slight decline because of strong competition.
The story of KFC is the story of its founder, Harlan Sanders. He was a man of many contradictions. He was a school dropout who became a brilliant businessman. He was a failure for 65 years who built an empire in 10. He created a brand, sold it, and then spent his life fighting it. He became one of the most famous faces in the world. The image of the kind, smiling colonel is known everywhere. But the real man was often angry and critical of the company he created. His legacy is not just the secret recipe. It is the inspiring story of a man who proved that it is never too late to start again.